I'll quickly throw a beat on it, and then I'll immediately start to work on a melody, sit in that 8-bar loop, trying to perfect it and trying to build it. I try to instantly find the next change, whether that's going to be a key change or a tempo change. I'll instantly try to find something else to go to. And I usually won't shut the project until I've got 3 different distinct parts.
Hey, do you find yourself with a hard drive that is constantly filling up with unfinished song projects? Maybe you create that 8-bar loop, but then you get stuck and you don't know how to finish your song. Well, in this video, I discussed with synthwave artist Neon Racer exactly how to get out of that 8-bar loop and actually finish more music. But one thing that can definitely help is having a plan in place before you go about creating your song. And so be sure to grab my hit creation checklist in the description below. This walks you through the 9 elements that all hit songs tend to have in common. And this can help you know what to do when you're creating your song. Even if you're not trying to write a hit song, these tips can definitely help you get unstuck and finish more music. One of the biggest questions I receive from people is like, how do you actually go about finishing a song, right? You might have like that 8-bar loop. You have your idea, right? Maybe you've got some chords, maybe you've got a melody, maybe a beat, but then how do you expand that out into a full song?
Yeah, I love this meme. I've been seeing this shared everywhere, this stuck in an 8-bar loop meme, and I've been sent it a lot from musician friends. Probably smiling, like, because cheekily, this is not something I have an issue with, but I think there's very solid reasons for that. I think coming from another instrument and coming from a songwriting background, because I've always played in original bands, I've never played in cover bands ever. And I'm not saying that to be, derogative towards cover bands. I think they're great as well, and there's a lot of skills you can get from that. But I've always been in the songwriting mindset, so I have not the world's best music theory, but I have a little bit of it. So if I had have just jumped straight into synthwave from no music background or from another EDM genre, I think I would probably be suffering from that 8-bar loop death, just like a lot of other people. But I do have an approach that would probably help people to a certain extent as well. I typically, like, when I come up with an idea, I'm usually starting with a chord progression. So I know there's a lot of discussion about top-down songwriting or bottom-up songwriting or what have you, but I almost always start with a chord progression that I like, or I just dabble until I find something that I like. I'll quickly throw a beat on it, and then I'll immediately start to work on a melody, sit in that 8-bar loop, trying to perfect it and trying to build it. I try to instantly find the next change, whether that's going to be a key change or a tempo change. I'll instantly try to find something else to go to. So even if it doesn't end up being the final part, there's something there that is changing gears in my mind and making me think about that original 8-bar loop a little bit differently. And I usually won't shut the project until I've got 3 different distinct parts. So then when I come back and listen with fresh ears again, I may not keep those parts, but at least I'm thinking about it in song terms and not that I've got this amazing melody or this amazing chord change and I need to make that everything. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm probably not explaining it all that well, but it's really that I try to think outside 8 bars right from the very start.
Okay.
And such, I usually don't have an issue with arrangement or what have you.
Okay. Do you ever like structure your song out first? Like, here's where my verse is going to be and my chorus, or do you kind of just blink?
I usually have an idea on what I think each part should be. It doesn't mean it always finishes that way. And, the second I start to collaborate with someone else, of course, they're going to have different ears as well. And so quite often it'll be like, no, I think this is going to be the chorus. So like, I always leave that door open to change my mind, but I do try to go intro, verse, chorus, bridge, whatever the parts are that I have. I try and find where I think they should be, but I do end up chopping and changing a bit. And that might be my version of that. At getting stuck in an 8-bar loop, I will spend weeks changing my mind over where the chorus should be, or what is the chorus? Is this the pre-chorus or what have you? So I do get stuck there a little bit. But we've all got our thing.
Yeah, I've thought about like doing a tutorial on my channel where it's like so far on my longer tutorials, I'm just like showing my finished project, and I've thought about just like recording myself actually creating a song, but I change what I'm doing so much. Like I spend a long time like narrating, so here's how I created these chords and everything, and then like 10 minutes later, I like delete those chords. So it's like, oh, it's gonna be so hard to edit. but I should probably try doing that anyway. But
I think it's a worthwhile venture. I think there'll be a lot of value in that for viewers for sure.
So I guess then to kind of wrap up this idea, so it's kind of like, so you have, once you get your 8-bar loop, you're kind of thinking, so what am I going to switch to next? So you're thinking of basically chords next, like for the next section, it would be, how do I change up the chords or change up the key?
So, you know, I'll just go through things like, and really cliched stuff. Like if I'm writing in, you know, if I'm writing in C major, say, like we'll use C major because everyone loves to start there, all the white keys. If I'm writing in C major, then maybe the first thing I'll go to for that next part is I might do the whole relative minor thing and start mucking around in A minor and just, I mean, obviously the same chords, but, you know, just that tonal shift. And if I'm not finding something there, then I'll just start going through circle of fifths. I'll find that first chord that sounds right to where I think this song should be going. And like, it's not to suggest for a second that I nailed this. Like it's sometimes you get lucky and the first thing you try, you're like, oh man, that sounds great. I'm going to run with this now. And sometimes it's just going through all of the available chords until I get the sound and then creating that new progression. And quite often I'll cycle back to something that I threw out that the first time I heard it, I went, that's crap. Like, and then I come back, I'm like, oh, actually, that sounds pretty good. I'm not sure what I was hearing there. So yeah, I think that little bit of music theory is worth delving into for everybody. And it doesn't have to be a lot, you know, like you could spend, you know, an hour going through a couple of things, get, you know, Dummy's Guide to Music Theory, whatever it is, just that little bit will help people to kind of find that next part. And even building the melody, I think, you know, like, again, you don't have to read music. I cannot read music, but I know enough, I think. Maybe. I'm sure I could do it more.
Yeah, that sounds pretty similar to what I do. Yeah, kind of just building out those chords first, and so you get one, right, each section. And you can even, right, some songs, even especially in synthwave, you can have like the same chords throughout the whole song. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be good. It could be stale, but also it could work really well. But yeah, I found that's the best way to kind of get out of that 8-bar loop is start with the chords, because that's kind of the foundation that you can start hearing melodies and counter melodies and harmonies and everything. You can build off of that. Some
of the biggest songs in the genre is the same chord progression for the whole song. It just doesn't sound that way because they've been so creative in how they're shifting tension and shifting different components in and out, keeping that movement, that critical movement, I guess, so the song feels like it's going somewhere. But yeah, like there are some very, very highly streamed synthwave songs that are one chord progression all the way through. There's nothing wrong with it. You Kept Me Running is the same chords all the way through. Not that I'm saying that's a hit, but yeah, like the song's done okay, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we can.
I'm trying not to do that all the time. I'm
yeah.
trying to change how I approach things.
Yeah, it's kind of a good idea to have a kind of a different approach so that you don't get kind of in a rut. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that like button like you're Marty McFly trying to get back to the future. And if you want more help creating synthwave music, be sure to click the video playing on the screen right now, as that is my full in-depth tutorial on creating a synthwave song from start to finish. With that, have an awesome day and keep creating.